Good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone doing? Seeing some thumbs up.
Good.
Excellent. Let me share my screen. We will get started. Let me get a few things set up and adjusted and such. So, does everyone have Node.js installed? Yes, cool. I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding. Theoretically, hopefully everyone's got it installed now. All is well in the universe. So let's code some things.
And do participation.
Yeah, you can go ahead and do participation too. I was going to wait to give late people a chance, but yeah, go ahead and do it now.
I'm driving. Can I do my participation later?
Yes, yes, you can.
Okay, I'm like in Texas right now, so might be a while.
Actually, your whole driving group is covered. I got it.
Okay, cool.
So I will count all of you as participating.
Thank you so much.
I'm not even in this class.
Alex is in the background. Hey, Alex.
Hey guys.
So yeah, if you're not even in this class, then we'll count you for participation when you are. And if you believe that, I've got another story for you. Anyway, let's do some Node.js, because why not? Let me see here. Let me get some things set up. I've got all these windows open on my other screen. Things have been a touch on the crazy side. So before we get into Node.js, I should probably talk a little bit about what the heck it is and what it's for. So let me put those artistic skills to work and put some scribbles together. Let's see. Give me a color to draw. I'm gonna draw with blue. No, it's a green kind of day today. Let's draw with green. Okay, got our drawing tool. And I could use the text tool and make it look all fancy, but I'm not going to. I'm going to pretend like I'm drawing on a whiteboard. All right, so let's talk about the way websites work. When we type in a URL, let's see, I guess we need a laptop. Here's our laptop. Scribbling along. So here's your laptop. It looks kind of like this, but maybe better. Anyway, you type in the URL here, and it goes up to the internet. Goes into the cloud, goes to a DNS server, which goes and says, oh, you've typed in this address, newmont.edu. Well, that's really this IP address. Let me go bouncing around all over the internet. And eventually, I'll get to the host server that actually holds those files, right? And so after it does that, it says, okay, I have the files you're looking for. You want index.html, and you want some pictures, and you want a CSS file. I'm going to send all that stuff right back down to you. Whee! And it appears on your screen. Right? That's the way the internet works. Now, that's a simplified way of that the internet works. But anyway, it gets down here, and it comes in as an HTML file and a CSS file and some image files and maybe some JavaScript too. And it assembles all of that on your browser. Your browser interprets all of those, and it's what figures out how to make that work, right? Everyone nod your head. Yeah, okay, cool. So your browser's doing the interpreting of that. That's the front end code, right? So your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript, everything we have done in Intro to Web, everything we have done in interactive web dev up to this point is all interpreted by your browser. Yes? Okay. So the server does more than just serve the files to you that you need. It actually, lots of other stuff happens on the server. The server, for instance, if your website has a database, here's our DB. That lives on the server, right? Sure. There's also other coding that lives on the server as well for communicating with the database, possibly even dynamically building the web content that gets sent down here so that this can interpret it. And that's done in a variety of different languages. In the past, PHP, ASP.NET, sometimes even Java. Ew. There are a lot of different languages that have been used in the past, ASP.NET being C#. But what it meant was that for doing your back-end server coding, you needed to do a different language than you were doing on the front end, because the front end, all your logic is in what language?
Then
What's our programming language on the front? Please don't say HTML. JavaScript. Dylan says JavaScript. Okay. Yes, HTML is technically a language. You can't really do logic though in HTML, right? It's just content. I'll have to post a meme about that at some point, but it's JavaScript, right? That's where our language comes from. Now, it's always been a pain because if you wanted to be a full stack developer, it meant that you have to learn all your front end stuff, and then you've got completely different languages to do your back end. Well, that's until a few years ago, we saw Node.js enter the scene. And what Node allows you to do is do JavaScript on both the front end and the back end. So now with Node.js, we can do JavaScript on the back end. We can do essentially our server-side programming. We can use a language we already know. How cool is that? You guys are like, yeah, whatever. Okay, so the toughest thing that I find for students to grasp is the fact that the coding we are about to do is server-side coding. It is not interpreted by your browser. And that was a very nice dab, Joe.
what does that mean?
So that means that the logic that we're coding happens, it's done by the web server. And there are different reasons to do each. When we code on the server, I know this is going to be difficult because we're going to turn our laptops into web servers, but it's not going to be your browser that's interpreting it. It will be the back-end logic of Node that will interpret it. And it will create our HTML content, and it will push it to your browser, so your browser can then interpret stuff as well. Actually interpret the front-end code. So even though it's all happening in your laptop, we're kind of splitting your laptop. We're letting it be a web server and a user browser side front end. Does that make sense? I know it's going to be a little weird. It gets a lot cooler when you guys take solution stack software development, because you'll get, in that class, if you don't already have one, you'll get a Raspberry Pi. And we'll turn that Raspberry Pi into our web server. And then you've actually got a separate machine. But for now, we're going to turn our laptops into web servers. And we will be able to access the content of that web server through our browser. So rather than having to bounce around across the internet, it's just going to kind of bounce around inside your computer. Fair and reasonable?
Yeah.
All right.
So, question. What
Yes.
if we have a Raspberry Pi, but we don't have a Raspberry Pi? Will we still get one?
So the way that class is usually handled, except during lockdown, sadly, the people taking it this quarter didn't get Raspberry Pis. They're actually doing it all on their machine, which isn't quite as fun. The way it works is it works like your textbook. You can choose to add it to your Newmont bill or not. If you say, I've already got a Raspberry Pi, I don't need another one. I don't know why anyone would say they didn't need another one. I've got 7 and counting. But, you know, if you're like, all right, I don't need to get another one right now, then you can just say, I've got what I need, and that's it. Otherwise, what happens is you say, I would like a Raspberry Pi. I give you one. I let Alice knows, who lets Newmont financial people know so that they can tack it on like they do your textbooks. Does that make sense? Now, in that case, you won't be using Node.js. You'll be using PHP for that class, which is a very different sort of language. It's got its ups and downs. It's been around for a long time and will continue to be. It's a language that is really fun so long as you're tidy, but as soon as you get sloppy, you can create horrible messes for yourself. But I love teaching that particular class. Anyway, I'm gonna clear out, can I clear out my drawing? My very mediocre drawing. There we go. Phew, 2 degrees in fine art, and that's the best you get from me. Sorry. Anyway, let's actually start into some Node here. Hang on, let me put some stuff away. There we go. So let's go ahead and I think what I need is to go to our interactive web dev folder. And I'm going to create a brand new folder. Node. Okay. You know, maybe let's tidy things up. New folder. JavaScript. Oh, that's better. And actually, that regex is just regex in JavaScript too, so I'm going to move that there too. Does that work? So we got our front end, we got our back end. Life is happy. Let's head on into Node, and I feel like I need a new project. So let's do this. I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call it Simple Server. And often when you create a new node project, good way to start is I'm going to type in CMD, which is going to open up a command prompt. It actually opened it on my other window, but let me shrink it down some and move it over for you to see. And I can type in now npm, here, let me close this slightly so you can see it all on one line, space init. And what this is doing is this says,
Wait, how did you bring up the command prompt again? Sorry.
oh, okay, sorry. So here's the magic. You just click up here and type in CMD, and it will open a command prompt in that very directory that we're working in. And so you can see this is, technically, if it showed all of it, it would show you that it's users, Tom, documents, and, you know, this is right in this directory. Does that work? Another way you can do that is, let's see, there's a way up here to do it too. Can't remember how. I always just CMD it, but oh well. Anyway, just click up here, type in CMD. It'll open up a command prompt in that area. And I'm going to type in npm space init, and I want to make sure that I'm in that folder that I just created. And it's now going to ask me some questions. It says, all right, we got a package name here, simple underscore server. Are we cool with that? It got that name from the name of the folder that I'm in. And I'm going to hit enter because I want it to take that default. And its default here is going to be, oh, so I'm assuming you want this to be version 1.0.0, and I'm cool with that default. And description, I'm not going to put a description in, I don't care. Entry point, index.js, yes, now that I like. So I'm going to hit enter again. And test command, not going to worry about testing, going to hit enter again. Git repo, don't care, going to hit enter again. Keywords, guess what I'm going to do here? That's right, hit enter again. Author, well, I'll put me in there. License, I'm okay with the ISC license, that's fine. And then it shows me I've got this JSON package. It's creating, it wants to create this package.json, which will be a JSON object that contains pretty much all the stuff that I told it to contain by hitting enter. And the default here again is yes, so I can just hit enter there, and magically it has created package.json just for me. Cool? You guys are like, yeah, whatever.
Okay, so there was a lot of enters, but which one was the one where you typed name?
Author. But
Oh,
if
the
you hit
author?
enter, it doesn't matter.
Okay, and test command was just enter, right?
Yep. It filled
Okay.
this for me later. Because
There was a lot of enters. I kind of got lost in that.
Yep, I understand. And you know, if you don't care about the author, you know, I could do it again. I could just say npm init. Okay, done.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay, let's, I need a new window. I feel like I need a new window. And I'm gonna open folder, interactive web dev, node, simple server, select. Okay, so Dustin, unfortunately, just to answer your question there, unfortunately, because the world has not all realized that Node.js is the ultimate end-all be-all, you still have to take classes in ASP.NET, and PHP is probably good to know. And, you know, it's, they just haven't all realized that how important it is. Yes. I, of course, find it interesting that Lua chooses to go by Lua, since Lua itself is a language. All right. I'm going to create index.js because clearly that's what I said my starting point was. And here's my package.json and JSON there. And you can notice, oh, when I did it the second time, I didn't put myself in as the author. So I can always make corrections now and just manually put in the author. You don't have to put me, by the way. You can put you. It would be weird if you put me as your author. So even if I am the one writing this. So let's do some things here. I'm gonna write a little code, and most of it's gonna seem kind of familiar, I think. So if I were to do const HTTP require HTTP, normally what that's doing is that's saying I'm requiring a package, which means I need to have that package installed. But in this particular case, HTTP is one of the default built-in packages of Node, so I don't actually have to install it. Let's say const server equals HTTP, which we know we get from this require. Create server. Ooh. Okay. So, and within this, I'm going to say, I'm going to pass in a function on request. Request response and within that, actually I'm going to do this. It just makes it a little tidier for me. I mean, you can put it on the second line, but yeah, maybe that's even easier to read. It's up to you. Anyway, in my function, I'm going to say, all right, we're passing in a request and response. I'm going to take the response and say, let's write the head of the response. So let me explain this whole request response thing. Request is our request. This is the request for data from the server. So someone is taking a browser and saying, hey, I want some information here. Can you help me out? And when a request is made, and this is an HTTP request, so it's done most likely through a browser. And the response, that's the data that we're sending back. And the first thing we're gonna send is a code 200. Does anyone remember from networking, from your networking 1 class, what the heck is a code 200? It's an OK response, that's right. Excellent. So it says, OK. And so we're going to respond with a 200 saying, yep, OK, I'm good with this. And then we're going to say the content type is text HTML. So we're sending you back some HTML text. Then we're going to send back some other stuff. And that right head, that's in the header information. Remember how packets get sent back and you get that header information? Okay, so we're saying in the header, you're getting back text in HTML. And then we're also going to send back hello world. Or forget saying hello world. How about hello Bob the Zombie? If I spell zombie right. There we go. And then after we do that, that's all we really want to say. So we're going to end our response there. So it knows it's done. Now, the only other thing that we need to do is we need to say what port our web server is listening to. So that it's going to listen to a particular port for an HTTP request. And if that request comes in, it's going to say, okay, I've got some HTML text for you. That text is going to be, hello, Bob the Zombie, and then it's going to end. Does that make sense? You guys are like, yeah, I don't know about
Somewhat.
somewhat. That's okay. Somewhat is
I think the only thing that I am not comprehending from this is the dot listen pretty much.
okay. So when you receive data on your computer, it comes in through one of many ports. And usually most of those ports are locked down. They do that for security purposes, so a hacker can't come through and have access to whatever they want. We are basically saying we're listening on port 3000 for an HTTP request. So if something comes through the network to our port 3000 and it's an HTTP request, we know how to respond to it. Okay, so I'm going to start up my server now because that's what I've actually just done. I've written a very simple web server. And I can do that since I'm in there. It's called index.js. I can just say node space index.js. And everything seems to have locked up. It's okay though. That is my server running. Now, if I want to actually test my server, bring over a browser here. And I think what I want to do is I'm going to shrink this down a bit so you can see what's happening on my command prompt too. And where I'm going to go is, since this is not actually running on the internet anywhere, it's running on my computer. I don't have to put an IP address. I don't have to put a domain name. I can just say localhost : and what's my port number that I'm listening on? Port 3000, right? So I'm telling my browser, go find port 3000 on my local host, because there's a web server there. I hit enter. Ooh, look what happened. Do you see what happened? All right, we got to take a little bit of time and process exactly what's going on here, because I want to make sure people understand it. Okay, so this is a self-contained web server. It's not a very interesting one. You know, the web page is all of one line, and it's not that cool. I mean, we could make it cooler because we've told it we're sending back HTML text, which means we could actually embed, you know, some HTML in there and save it. And if I refresh, nothing happens. I'll explain that in a minute. But this is an actual web server. If you were on your own network and you were to go to your router and open up port 3000, you could actually set it up so people could go to whatever the IP address is of your computer, port 3000, and bring up, hello, Bob the Zombie. I wouldn't recommend you do that. That's potentially a security risk unless you're paying attention to other things. But technically you could do that and you could have a functioning web server and be accessible to the internet. Technically right now, the only thing preventing you from doing that is port 3000 is probably locked down on your router. But you could take a router and say, for port 3000, forward to my computer, and this would function as a web server. Cool? That's what I'm doing with the Raspberry Pi in my office when I do the little participation server. Make sense? Okay. All right. Your on request has a red line under it. Does it run? Dylan?
No, it does not. I don't know why.
All right. Seems like an opportunity for the class to debug.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna stop and let me give permissions for other people to share. They have that off by default these days because people started sharing stuff that they shouldn't. Kayla, you've got a question?
Yeah, so mine is also not running, except I have no red lines.
Ooh, we'll take a look at yours next. Did you do an did you do npm start? Or excuse me, no, not npm start. Forgive me, I'm jumping ahead. Did you do node index.js?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And it's on my actual browser. It just says that it can't be reached.
Okay. We'll take a look. Dylan, you're sharing?
Oh, sorry. Give me a sec.
All right, cool. Wow, that is crazy background. Awesome.
Okay, so this, yeah, I'm very confused on what's going on. Like, I followed yours and kept looking at it, and did I just forget to do something in the command, or?
You spelled function wrong.
Yep, that would do it.
Oh, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I
Brother,
can't.
it happens. Brother, it happens. Everybody has their day.
All right, there you go. That's an awkward.
That happened to me in the first class, so.
Oh, brother, it happens. It
I think I'm pretty sure like the last time I shared my screen, it was the same problem. I wrote something wrong.
It happens.
All right. So there's an easy way around that. What would the easy way around that other than, you know, avoiding misspelling function? We don't actually have to use the word function, do we? Can we change?
No, we don't. We can use arrow functions
We can.
for EST 2015.
Yes, we can. So anyway. Okay, Kayla, did you want to share?
Yes, please.
Go for it.
Okay, bam. Oh, ignore how cluttered everything is. My apologies.
That's fine.
Okay, so I typed in the Node.js here.
Okay.
And everything, and then that's what I have.
You got an error though. Stop, go back, go back.
Ah.
Let's see your command prompt. All right, so Here it's saying we got a problem here. Index.js.
Yeah, I realized that I had these capitalized, and then I went back through, and then
Okay, so then you got to rerun your server again.
okay.
Because the server has to be running. All right, your server's running. Now go to your browser and refresh.
All right.
Huzzah!
Sweet. Thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome. No problem.
So would a capital R on the response mess it all up then?
What was that?
Would a capital R on the response cause problems for it?
Yes. Yes. Unless, I mean, if you're consistent, it shouldn't, because that's a variable that you're creating. You're defining its name. Because these are parameters that are coming in. So if you did a capital R here, that would be a problem.
You're not sharing your screen
Unless
anymore.
you change everything. And typically what people do, I wrote out request and response. In the future, when we start getting into Express, usually people do REQ and RES, and we'll switch to that eventually. I wanted to write it out here so you always know what it stands for. But I will be shortening it in the future. Oh, you know, I was just typing that and you guys weren't seeing it because my screen wasn't shared. Okay, let me go back to sharing my screen. Okay. Nick, it's not essential that you do the NPM init so long as you've got your index and everything. Eventually, NPM init's going to be important. That's how you normally want to start your project. But you can run NPM init and then just hit enter a bunch of times until you get through all of the prompts. And then you can put in the code that we've got in index.js. Okay, so that's a quick server. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Yeah, sort of, whatever. Let's talk about some other things in Node that make it kind of fun. Let's, oh, well, let me talk about one more thing here. So when I refreshed, I went ahead and I put in the H1 and I hit refresh and it didn't refresh. The reason for that is because I may have made changes to this, but it's still running the old server. And so if I hit Control C, that will stop my server. And oops, if I type in node index.js and hit enter, that starts my server again running the new code. So I refresh now and it sees the H1 tags that I put in. Is that a little bit tedious? Every time you make a change to your server, you have to stop your server and start it back up again? I don't know about you, but that would drive me nuts if I had to always do that. If only there were a package that would detect when I've made changes, stop and start my server again. Oh, well. Oh, wait, there is one. So I'm going to hit Control C here, and I'm going to install my first Node package. Oh, I'm so excited. So I'm going to do npm install. Technically, you can just do I, but you guys are new, so I'm going to write out install. And I'm going to say -G for global. When you install a global package, you're installing it to Node rather than just for this particular project. So you shouldn't have to install this again unless you rebuild your computer or, you know, set it on fire or whatever. So npm install space -G for global. And what we want to install is the Node monitor, which will monitor your stuff. And it's called nodemon or if you can't remember that, it's no daemon, because it keeps you from the demons of having to stop and restart your server. And so npm install -g no daemon, or nodemon for node monitor. And it's going to install this package, and it's doing it globally, so I should never have to install it again, even though I install it every time I teach this class. And we have now installed our first package, and if you look here, it hasn't added anything because it's installed it globally. Normally, a node modules package or node modules folder would be created if it were a local package, and it would be in there.
Can you go back to the installing part? It was node install. What was the last bit? Oh, nodem.
So don't forget the -g. Your life.
Got the -g.
So npm for node package manager, install -g, notice there's space between each of these, and
Yeah.
then nodemon.
Nodemon.
And you'll notice I got some warnings here. Usually you don't have to worry about warnings with node packages. They happen all the time. Errors are another story. Gabriel, you get it?
Yes, sir.
All
I
right.
got it.
Cool. So to get nodemon running, if I just type in nodemon instead of node index.js, nodemon by default will go ahead and look at your package.json and know that that's your start package. So it's just going to run whatever that is, which is by default index.js. So I'm just going to type in nodemon, and here it is running. And, you know, if I refresh, everything's working. But if I change some things, like maybe H1 is a little too much for us, maybe let's make this an H2 and save it. And then all I have to do is refresh my page. Because you'll look at what happened here. It said, oh, restarting due to changes, starting node index.js. Is that kind of magical? I think it's magical. It makes me happy. And so I can make all the changes I want. But I think this is all pretty good. Maybe I want to get rid of function. And, you know. And maybe I think H2 is still too big. So I'm going to go H3 and save it. And oh, refresh. And there's an H3. Nodemon is your friend. Now, important things to know. If I hit Control-C and it says terminate my batch job, yeah, sure. I could just hit Enter or hit Control-C again and it will stop my server. If I refresh now, my server is not running. So my browser will say, hey, server, go give me this stuff when I hit refresh. And notice this is spinning because there is no server out there. I'm not running a server. It's like I've sent it to the internet, even though I haven't. I've sent it to another part of my laptop. But it's like I sent it to the internet and the server is down. Does that make sense? Okay. By the way, if you came in late, do participation quiz. I'm really curious to know if you think Monday the 13th is scarier than Friday the 13th. I think it probably is, but who knows? Anyway.
Now, hold on real quick. On the participation,
yeah,
I didn't get any answers. They popped up with no text at all. It was just
Or
buttons.
dots.
Or dots.
Yeah.
It was just like, there was no text. It was just white space for me. So I hit C because when in doubt, Charlie out, but.
So wait, tell me what happened.
There were no
We're not-
responses in the quiz. They're just all blank dots. It happened for me too.
Really? Huh. Okay.
So I just went and picked Charlie or C. I picked C because I was like, no dots? Okay, this is a blank answer. It's always true.
So I thought I set it up to be a true false survey. Did I not?
No, it had four blank
Oh, it had four
responses that
blanks.
I could do.
Sorry. I went a little quickly, apparently.
That was the real scary option.
There we
It's
go.
all 4.
They're all blank. Which one is winning?
So I just changed it to be true false, but let's see what the survey statistics say.
I'm saying Charlie. C. C has got to be the number one.
Oh, by changing it to true false, it automatically changed everyone to no answer. So there. So all of you selected no answer. I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have changed it yet. Anyway, to get my server running again, I can just spin up NodeMon, and now when I refresh, it finds my server. Does that make sense? Do we understand? We got a back end, we got a front end. That's kind of cool. We've almost got the full stack in there. We need a database, but we're not doing that for a little while yet. We will do it this quarter. We'll jump into some MongoDB. So, have you guys taken databases too yet? I know you haven't. You'll take it eventually. And you guys will be cooler than a lot of people, because when you spend like 2 weeks on MongoDB, you'll be like, shh, I already know MongoDB, we're good. But anyway, so do you think this node stuff, you think you can handle it, wrap your brains around it a little bit? Maybe. We'll get into some more complex things soon. I do want to teach you a little bit about creating separate modules so that you can split out your work a little bit, and it doesn't all have to be part of the same file. So wouldn't it be nice to have different files to work with? Eventually, I'll teach you how to do that in regular JavaScript too. Does anyone have any questions? Dead silence. Have any of you worked with Node before? Is this new for everybody? Joe says yes, I've done it.
It's new for me.
Okay. Joe, what have you done with Node? Discord bots. That's like a rite of passage at Newmont. Let's write Discord bots. And web servers. Okay, fair enough. Have you worked with Express before? Okay. I got nothing to surprise you with. Have you worked with MongoDB? Pug is neat, yes. We'll get there. All right. Now, you guys are still, you're still new. I expect most of you have not written Discord bots, but I've found that by third year, the beginning of third year, a large portion of my students have, for either for a class or just for fun, written a Discord bot. So don't sweat it yet, Kat. All right. So anyway, fun stuff. We are at the beginning of the third week. I don't know how Newmont's going to handle degree declaration, but I'm sure they'll figure something out. It is coming up quickly. Normally it is done like 3 weeks from now. So hopefully you've got a pretty good idea of what you want to jump into. That's okay, Kat. At least I think I know where you're going. I knew where you were planning on going before. I will, I'll maybe see if I can get Alice's attention and see if she can give me any hints on how it's going to be handled this time, since we are a bit virtual and taking a look at the news and such. I'm not sure how soon this is going to be ending. I would not be surprised if our quarter ends up being entirely virtual.
I was talking to Dr. Kohler about this a week ago, and he was telling us to not expect to have active in class this quarter at all, and maybe even next quarter.
I tend to concur, even though I've heard conflicting things from different people. I would be very surprised if we are on ground this quarter at all.
Is Big sad? Like, it sucks not being able to necessarily get out of the house every day and go to class, because that was like a really nice thing to do, is walk from Elevate to Newmont and give me a bit of exercise and everything. And like, it was just nice to get out of the house. So Big sad?
Yeah, the mayor of Salt Lake City seems to want to keep things locked down for now.
I just gotta say, I truly do miss those blueberry muffins in the market downstairs. It's been like 5 weeks without one, and I'm starting to get the shakes a little bit, you know.
Yeah, sorry.
We can't get our stickers.
Yeah, I will get them to you as soon as I'm able to.
If we're being honest, that's the important part, okay? I'm sorry, but that's what the most upsetting thing is.
Got a whole package just waiting for those of you going web.
I'm just waiting to go back down to the bunker finally.
Yeah. So how many of you are on campus in
Me.
dorms?
Me.
Okay. Well, hopefully they will get things resolved quickly and we will be back. But I think we're managing to pull this off reasonably well. Is anyone having difficulties with the virtual classes?
Yes.
Staying focused is a problem.
It is. I understand.
It's more challenging to like actually get work done. Now, I have good friends and they're here for me, so they're like, Dustin, do your work, and I get it done. It's just staying focused and staying in the mentality of, okay, you got to get your work done. Yes, you're at home, but you got to get this stuff done. It's rough, and it's an interesting transition.
Yeah.
Not being in that learning environment is not helping out at all, because being in the learning environment really does help. Like,
Give that focus there. You don't have cool toys to play with. You know, I can't pull out the little gear Rubik's Cube, which is really great when you put it on the green side, because then it, you know, becomes a green screen. You don't have the distractions. Anyway, all right, folks. Tomorrow we'll talk some more about Node.js. Sorry, I ran a few minutes over. And we'll go from there. Take care, everyone.
Adios.